Once again, you're most welcome to another edition of the Youth Roundtable 2025 for the month of April. We welcome you from a lot of events that have transpired both globally and locally here in Uganda at a national level. We had the burial of Pope Francis that took place in Rome over the weekend. Here in the country, from last week when we were last here, we had the nationalist and the patriot. That is Major John Kazora also, who was buried. And as young people today, our topic of discussion is the state of political and civil rights in the country. But we cannot do away with our religious affiliation with our leaders. For the first session of the show, we want a pick from my guests today that I've invited for this specific show. What are their comments or what are their lessons from the legacy of Pope Francis, that was the Pope of the Catholic Church across the world, a church that has over 1.4 billion believers. To introduce you my guests for the show today, I'll start from my extreme left. From my extreme left is Honorable Mugisha Trust Nduwayo. Those of you who have had the chance to be in Kyambogo for the last 8 years, you may have come across this name. Honorable Trust Mugisha Nduwayo was the 18th Guild Prime Minister of Kyambogo University. He has served in different capacities at the university, and now he is eyeing to be the next Kyambogo University Convocational Chairperson to represent Kyambogo University at the University Council. You're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Ivan. I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
It is a pleasure that you responded to our invite. Next, from my extreme left, moving towards my right, is Precious Ninsiima. I have known her from a lot of platforms, but the little I know about her, she's a lawyer, and she's our guest today. You're most welcome.
Thank you, the youngest general around the city, for hosting us today.
Wow, a colleague and a friend. Next, as you move towards my right, is Lukwago Ashiraf. Lukwago Ashiraf is a law student at Kampala International University. He's the secretary to the Electoral Commission at Kampala International University. You're most welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ivan. I'm glad to be here. And to all our dear viewers, I'm so happy to have you.
Yeah, you will be a very good ambassador for KIU today. Closest to me on my left is Mr. Honorable to be Wamono Isaac. Wamono Isaac is an aspiring Uganda Young Democrats Secretary General. That is the UYD, the youth wing of the Democratic Party. They have an election on the 30th May and is one of the candidates. You're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Ivan, for hosting me here. It is my first time of being here and I'm really honored to be here. Thank you very much.
Precious, before we run into the issues of the state of political and civil rights, I want to pick your view on the legacy of Pope Francis. Pope Francis became a pope in March 13, 2013. We were lucky as Uganda that on the November 27th to 29th of 2015, Pope Francis visited Uganda. Part of the 12 African countries that he has visited in his lifetime as Pope, Uganda was the first country that Pope Francis visited. As a country, we cannot shy away from his symbolism, compassion, humility that he portrayed, especially when you look at some of the key actions that he participated in during his service that came to an end last week. What catches you when you hear of the name Pope Francis?
Thank you, today's host. First of all, I want to...
I know I'm used to being a moderator with you, but for today I'm the host.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank Civic Space TV for always providing such opportunities where we share our views, especially the young people, because you know, the future of the country most of the times rides on the energy that the younger people are putting in today. Today, I'm very grateful to discuss such amazing topic about the most honored person in the world, who is the Pope Francis, now the late. Yes, it was really shocking news when we heard about that. And of course, as young people, there is a lot that we have learned from him. And I was glad that people who were really talking about his legacy are not the Catholics, because we know this is a Pope, the head of Catholics in the whole world. But you can see the Seventh Adventists, even Muslims, it is a surprise that they were even like, oh, a great man has gone, because of what the Pope was doing to the whole world. We can see during his legacy, yeah, he had a visit in Uganda, as it is indicated from the history in 2015. And really it was a great honor for Uganda to host such great man. And you know, I'm sure the world knows that Uganda is a part of Africa, and that means that there are so many good things that attract people within and abroad to come and visit, to come and enjoy, because we have registered the good environment, the fresh air, yeah, the good physical features around, yeah. And I'm sure everyone around, when you talk about Uganda, there is what comes into their mind. We can see the global reach, basically. And as young people, we always want to visit. And when the Pope says, I'm visiting Uganda, really everyone was like, oh, I think now this is also our time to open up opportunities for the younger people, and even people of different ages to also get inspired to move to other countries to see what is there. Because once you hear about a country, you really need to have it in your lifetime. You get a visit there, and you confirm what the world talks about it. Then I've also seen environment and the human outreaches, because as a country we have been having those issues of environment challenges. And when the Pope came to Uganda, actually, among the discussion that we had here in Uganda with different stakeholders, and even up to date, we have seen him advocating for environment change, because when we have really an environment that is not conducive for human life, really we cannot survive there. Like here in Kampala, you saw the current floods. But such people inspire the world, and everyone will come to know that, yeah, this is what everyone should stand for. Then we have also seen issues of advocacy for interfaith or interdialogues, because historically Uganda has been having challenges of whereby we have religious conflicts. But this is a man who has been on the ground until he breathed off, advocating for us to always have a spirit of coexistence. Because when you look at a Muslim person putting on a veil or whatever dress code.
Saudi Arabia at some point, and was the first Pope to visit Saudi Arabia.
Yes, yes. And you know, Saudi Arabia is a community occupied by the majority of the Muslims. And we can see really a greatest man of the Catholic community in the whole world visiting a Muslim community. So really, even as I think in his legacy, we should carry it on, and we live together with people of different religion. We need to live harmoniously. We need to be advocates for peace, because though he has died, it doesn't mean that his legacy has died, because he has lived to leave a legacy, and legacy will always be remembered.
Thank you very much. Honorable Trust Mugisha Nduwayo, I want to pick your comments on Pope Francis. The Pope once made a statement that goodness is not an idea but a practice. You have been a leader for the young people and an example to young people in society. What are your comments on the life of Pope Francis, as to what lessons do you pick from his legacy and his works for the time you followed about Pope Francis?
Thank you so much, Ivan. Pope Francis remains in our minds and in our hearts as a man who indeed was true to his word to some extent. He was a human being. We might not ignore his shortfalls as a human being, but I would like to put it clearly that he was a clear representation of someone who stood for his word and did his best to be true to the society he led. I remember a time when Pope Francis was asked about the alleged gay priests, and his response was, "Who am I to judge?" That alone is a statement that indicates that he's a person who recognized human failure and is a person who gave people chance and an opportunity either to correct their mistakes, but in other words, he was inclusive. And so we remember him for that, and we remember him for a man who stood for his word. He was a defender of family, and you clearly know his stand on contraceptives, you know his stand on same-sex marriage, and some people, to some extent, understood him as a controversial pope. He comes out as a controversial pope because he, in many times, did not give the responses or the answers that maybe the media wanted to receive, or maybe some individuals wanted to receive. But he remains to us as a person who stood in a challenging time, that he gave responses that responded to the society, to the needs of society. His interest in climate change showed that he's a person who is compassionate and has humanity at heart. And so we see him advocating for measures to curb climate change as one of his main focuses in all these things, in his tenure and in his career. Pope Francis also remains to us as a very resilient and courageous man. He's a pope that even when he was frail, you could see on Easter Sunday, after saying the Mass, and how he came out. He was very frail many times, but whenever he would have some energy, he would come and lead and ensure that he executes his duties. That in itself proves to us that he's a man who was true to his duty. And he was so much determined to ensure that he fulfills that duty. And so one thing I learned from him, and something that I take for myself as an individual, is that society sometimes has its own demands. But there must always be principle. That you and I, Ivan, can live in the same society, disagree on principle, but remain accommodative to one another. And that is something that probably we have not harnessed in society. His humility surely surpasses some of our understanding. A man who stooped too low to kiss the shoes of some people as he advocated for peace. That is something, and it was a very big statement. It was a very big statement worldwide. And I want to believe that in his tenure, at least there was some calm that was brought about his interventions in peace. And so we remember Pope Francis for who he was, a man who was courageous, a man who has a great resolve to duty and to ensuring that his duties are executed in the best way possible. But as well, most importantly, and this is for me my biggest take home after reading his whole character, that his responses to society needs were very philosophical, were very ideological, and his responses were humane. That he did not in any way try to bring out sowing any kind of conflict within people. He understood that all of us have varying ideas and varying needs, and everyone looked up to him as a person who is going to offer solution to the needs, politically, socially, climate, to talk about everything. Everyone looked up to the Pope. And so our hope is that we shall have even a better replacement of Pope Francis. But however, he remains to us as a very courageous man and a Pope that offered answers and responses at a time that this world needed them.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mugisha Trust Nduwayo. You point out key issues of symbolism that are around the Pope's pragmatism for human character, being a leader who is exemplary, that sacrifice, selflessness that he always portrays. Ashraf, as a young Ugandan as well, you may be of a different faith, but I believe the issues of Pope Francis are issues of global politics and global village where we all live in. What do you pick from the Pope's legacy for the few years you had of him, maybe?
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Ivan. As you've earlier on said, I'm Ashraf and I belong to the Muslim faith. However, as you've said, it's very important that, yes, it's true that the Pope was the international leader for all the Catholic Church.
The first Pope to visit the Islam states.
You can imagine. That's not something that people can take for granted. He was the first Pope to have visited Saudi Arabia. So me as Ashraf, what I can basically pick from the late Pope Francis, one is the issue of humility. On the issue of humility, remember he was elected the Pope of the Catholic Church back then in 2013. However, the year 2015 to 2016, he came up with what we call the Year of Mercy. The Year of Mercy was all about making sure that we all the people in the Catholic Church and even the world at large, we are all merciful to each other. He himself in that particular year declared himself as a sinner. You can imagine. We all know that Pope is one of those people who are actually the perfect people. But he himself in that very year of 2015-2016, after him declaring that year as the Year of Mercy, he declared himself as one of the sinners. So you can see something that he has not been someone who has not been that bad, but he has been recognized worldwide. Another thing I can pick from the late Pope Francis was, we all remember in 2018, before 2018 and even below, we had issues of South Sudan, especially between President Salva Kiir and his Vice President, Riek Machar. In 2018, they came up with they signed what we call the peace treaty in Ethiopia. However, these two, after them signing the peace treaty, just ended on paper. You understand? So after it ending on paper, they went on with their conflict. So the Pope, as a concerned person, back from as far as Vatican is concerned, had to call these two gentlemen to Vatican. So when he called them to Vatican, he called them in 2019. That was a year after 2018, the year which was when the peace conflict was signed in Ethiopia. So when he called them in Vatican, he wanted to, of course, make sure that peace they signed in 2018 was put into consideration, not other than just being written on paper. So when he called them, he was there. It was a 2-day visit actually. He made sure he talked to them in a good way so that they would reconcile. So after him talking to them, Mr. Honorable, my colleague, has talked about the issue of licking feet. We all know that that's not something easy. Some of us, even if some people you may not even do something which is not easy. But after him reconciling the two gentlemen, he knelt down on his knees and he did that issue of the feet. I'm not talk about it again. But what I'm trying to bring out of this is, he's this kind of person who treated each and every person equally, in a way that he was not discriminating people in terms of the race, ethnic groups, countries, continents, everywhere. So I, as Ashraf, I condole with the entire Catholic fraternity as well as the world at large. That's why even on his burial, we saw over 300,000 people physically attending his final send-off. So I, as Ashraf, I'm not going to go beyond that, but since it's more of the Pope, I really condole with you once again and the entire Catholic fraternity. Thank you so much, Mr. Ivan.
The Pope, thank you very much. Isaac.
Yes.
The Pope has been a man of impartiality and neutrality when it comes to political affiliation. when Russia attacked Ukraine, most of the West, almost all the West sided with Ukraine. When Israel attacked Palestine, it is the Gaza Strip, they are also lost interest in the West. None of them came out to condone the actions of Israel, the Gaza Strip, or the actions of continued fighting and killing of innocent lives over the Hamas-Israel conflict. Pope Francis, even when after his surgery of the lungs in all his sickness, has been the only international leader around the globe siding with the Palestinians to see that they take interest in seeing they meet Israel and end this war. So, my question to you is, as a youth in leadership, what lessons do you pick from the legacy of Pope Francis?
All right. Thank you very much for having me here. Once again, my name is Isaac Wamono. I come from the Uganda Young Democrats. I think most of the good things that the Pope did have been spoken by my colleagues. But as for me, I'll talk about his humility for sure. Remember when he came here in Uganda, if it was some of our leaders here, he would have moved with a lot of security following him. And when he came in Uganda, he moved and was staging in different places to greet people, to bless the young people. That was the highest form of humility I've ever seen. And even after finishing his communication here, you remember he went and visited the homeless, the helpless in Nalukolongo. That was a very wonderful gesture, according to me. But speaking about his impartiality, even in his position as a pope, you can see in Uganda here, most of the religious leaders, let me say most of our leaders here in Uganda, they've been intimidated to an extent that they cannot wake up and speak about the injustices and unfairness that's going on. But as Pope in his capacity, he has always spoken about injustices, he has always spoken about bad governance, he has always spoken about unfairness in communities. He was someone who really thought much about togetherness. You see, when even in the year 2017, he was given an award for the Freedom Fight of the Year. Imagine. So for me, I learn a lot from him, but basically my take home is his humility and his involvement in making sure that the globe is fair to all of us. We all have justice, we all have good governance in every country. And his religious, making sure that all our beliefs, he was recognizing all our beliefs. He was not segregating that maybe this one is a Muslim, this one was a Catholic, this one is a Protestant. He was taking us as the same race. So those are the few things I can learn from him, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Isaac. As the Youth Roundtable, we sent our timely condolences, and we do stand with the Catholic Church as they go within this transition from Pope Francis to a new leadership. We wish them the best of the new leadership. Coming back to our topic of discussion today, the state of political and civil rights in the country. We shall start off by looking into what is going on, that is the display of the National Voters Register. Within that, we shall look at circumstances that have always caused a lot turn up. We just saw recently a by-election in Kawempe where a voters register had 190,000 voters and only 40,000 voters voted, which was not even 38% of the registered voters. All that is money Uganda spends on organizing the election. When we spend too much, an election of around 865 billion and the turn-up of voters is low. We have put in too much money in security, in buying items, in monitoring. These are all issues. We have seen political parties preparing for elections at the moment. The NRM has rolled out its roadmap. We see the National Unity Platform this very week. Some of its activities were limited by police for reasons that we may not have clear justification for the show. But I'm going to pick from our viewers, what is the analysis of the current state of political and civil rights in the country at the moment? Again, Honorable Trust Mugisha Nduwayo, you will allow me to start with you, given you're my senior. I want you to give a brief analysis before maybe I bring in another panelist. From your view, as a leader in this country, what do you analyze of the current state of the political and civil rights as we head into 2026?
Well, thank you so much once again, Ivan. The current state of the political and civil rights in our country is quite appalling, and for the last many years, it has remained the status quo. A few things change. As you know, we live in society that is dynamic. But even within a dynamic society, when the people at the helm of systems are not changing, there is less we expect to change. And so, lately, like you have put it clearly, about the display of the voters register, and the involvement of people in political activities, is not representative of what is put on paper in the planning processes. And I think that is a question that we all must put to ourselves. To ask ourselves and to find out whether society still has confidence in the systems that we are so much talking about today. Do we still have people who have confidence in governance? Do we still have people who think that there is democracy in Africa? Do we have people who think that within our country itself, we have the goodwill of the people at the helm to listen to the voice of the majority? Or it is about self-interests that are peddled and wrapped up in a document that is displayed to the public? You know, the human mind operates in a way that what is fed to it seems to be realistic to it until you scrutinize it. If you wake up and display and maybe use a lot of force, military force, in political engagements, people will assume that that is a place for only the strong-hearted. It means those voices that would want to come in a calm environment to exercise their civic rights will never participate in such processes. When you monetarize the whole system, and every process requires money, but where ideology cannot work, the young people like you and I can already be excluded. It means that we either must be thieves for us to participate in the political affairs of our country, or else we must be affiliated to those that we think, sometimes those we might not believe in, by the way, but because we think they are the only means to lead us to where we want. And thirdly, when you and I look at a system that does not listen, that even when we have the courts of law are handcuffed and have no capacity to decide and make decisions independently, then we reach a point where we do not no longer have the notion of separation of powers in the country. And so the current state, I must acknowledge that there is participation in these political activities. But the participation is not representative of what is put on table. And that is a wake-up call, I think, to all of us, to find out and ask ourselves what exactly is wrong and what is that needs to be corrected. Thirdly, and I want to put it clearly, that many times it is a game of those that are running the show that would want to prove creating an avenue for themselves for for anything that they would wish, they would think that can give them probably a leeway and to succeed in their maneuvers. Now, when you wake up and you have a political party that has more than 20 million people as their voters and their participants, but less than 5 million people participate in a national process, it leaves many questions, and one wonders why such a thing happens. What exactly is being put what message is being portrayed, and what message is needed to be transferred by such a register? And so my own understanding is that those are games of political maneuverers who want to maneuver here and there, that for whatever reasons someone will create a situation that protects them, what they call the buffer zone. The numbers are highly inflated. You have put it very well, the Kawempe by-election recently, Kawempe North by-election. The participation was so surprising from what the records really showed. And for any person who really wanted to have a political maneuver, that was their game. So to me, I think it is a wake-up call to society, and to request the society that I belong in as well, that we don't need to resign. Ivan, you will agree with me that people have resigned and have given up the political space for a few people. Like I've told you, there is high use of force, state machinery. There is a lot of use of money. And so if Ivan, you cannot afford $1 billion, it becomes hard for even a person who doesn't even have 1,000 shillings in his pocket to believe you, because all they want is to first give them either a bar of soap and then they can listen to you. The politics of this nation have been transformed into, it's more of an exchange. It's more of a business, a transaction. You give me this, I give you that. And so we remain in a society where you and I are not going to see hospitals being equipped. We're not going to see roads being built. We're not going to see schools equipped. We're not going to see good political space and goodwill and the rule of law in society. Because those that have the power, those that have the finances are going to control us and are not going to give us an opportunity. So for me, it is we live in a state, we are living in society, and the state we are in right now is one that is so much wanting. A society that we wouldn't want to see for even ourselves and our children. That if this continues for the next 5 years, then I can assure you that we might not have a society left for ourselves, but otherwise having a society of only carnivores and people who are just bloodthirst for others.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Mugisha Trust Nduwayo. Precious, our elections lately, the increasing levels of violence and abductions, people at the bar. What do you make of this first? Because I think the latest abduction is the abduction of Mutwe.
Yeah.
This is all over media. Mutwe is a security lead for the president of the National Unity Platform, that is the Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. You have been in courts where you've witnessed what is happening to retired Colonel Kiza BSG. At least I've seen you observe such at court. What are your remarks on the state of political and civil rights?
Thank you so much once again for such wonderful question. Yes. The civic space world is really a technical world. That's what I can say. What do I mean? There are so many things happening, and really everyone is asking a question: who has done this and what should be done? Because when you hear that a colleague has been abducted, most of the times you think of that is maybe the president of the country, President Museveni. That's what is always coming in the mind of the common man, because we are like, the president has authority to even pardon, to even order, because he's the head of state. He has that mandate, and Article 98 of the Constitution of Uganda. Our concern is, as Ugandans, within Uganda and outside Uganda, and even people who are not Ugandans, because political issues affect all of us wherever we are. Some of these political issues of abductions, threats, we can see that it is becoming like a disease which moves from one generation to another. Because we have seen that historically, including our former Chief Justice, Beni Chiwanuka, was abducted, and up to now, we know we always celebrate Beni Chiwanuka Memorial. He was abducted, and up to now, we don't know whether he is even maybe still alive, but yes. But you can see such things happening. Most of the times, we have to look at the control of the policy. What does the policy see? Because we see the law does not work in a vacuum, and once such things happen, we look at what does the law say. If someone has been abducted, what should be the procedure like? If someone is in a legal fraternity and they inform you that you have a client who has been abducted, what is your take? Most of the times, we do searches whereby, because you cannot come out to the public and say, my sister or my brother or this person has been abducted, without proper information. Most of the times you have to first find out, because the way we communicate to the people is through the phones, whereby you call someone, someone is not picking, you visit someone's residence, a person is not there, and then you come out for a public cry and inform the public that you no longer see a person, probably this person has been abducted. However, there are some people you see physically being taken away, and because we have seen that someone has been taken away by a car that is not even having a number plate, by someone who has covered him or herself, you cannot recognize what is a person or a robot that has taken you. So it brings to us so many questions. And to me, what I encourage and what I emphasize is that we need to always know information, because awareness is the first thing that a person should always take, like using such platforms. Do you know what is trending, and do you know what you're supposed to do as an individual when something happens? Because most of the times, the people who have never visited the police station, for them, when they see the police, they just know maybe a person has come to arrest them. They run away before even a police officer talks to them. Because the first thing a person is supposed to do is probably to report to the police. And now we are living in a world of technology. You use the social media to report, so that we can really find all the ways of searching for this person through the normal procedures. But most of the times you'll find these issues are politically motivated. Though at times it is true that somebody has been abducted, there is a threat like this is a political season, and whereby we have talked of issues of register, like some people are not motivated to go and check themselves in a voters register because of different issues.
I will pause you there as we go for a short break. As we return, you restart from there. Thank you, our viewers. We are going for a short break, and we return with the Youth Roundtable. Thank you very much.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create and publish digital media, or to access and use computers, other electronic devices and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Precious, our lawyer of the Youth Roundtable, as we went into the break, you were summarizing on the points around abuse of human rights, but also procedural issues around what at least citizens should be aware of in terms of self-defense as we go towards the political season.
Yes.
You could conclude. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. And as the youth and the people, the viewers who are out there, we need to always understand that as we talk about the things, at times we have issues of implementation, because most people have talked about these things, but we always ask ourselves, where are the results? Because we always say that results speak for themselves. You don't need to explain much. And as people who are out there in the judiciary, we encourage you to continue implementing what is right for the society, because we have principles of a good justice system, the principles of transparency, the principles of fairness, the principles of independence and the accountability, because that is what is always worrying people, and to make them raise so many questions is whether the judicial system that we run to, because when you look at the current cases of Tisabesije whereby the bail has been denied, yes, we know that bail is always at the court's discretion, but also a question comes whether that right to apply for bail is really the right to apply for bail. So why is the humanity in this? Of course, the world looks at it as a form of political history, whereby maybe these people have always worked together, because like someone was posing to me a question, like what is really happening, or what should be done, or what should really the public look at? Should we say that when you go to these courts there is nothing like justice? Yeah, I appreciate we need also to always understand the grounds of appeal, because once there is a decision that has been passed and you really see that you have good grounds for appeal, you're always given time to raise your concern, so that the judiciary can look at the decision, can review, because you have issues of review and issues of revision, and basically revision is always in high court. And we need to always embrace that there is no end limit provided you have good grounds, because we have seen that many decisions have been quashed, because we have seen, like in the case laws, if a decision has been quashed, like last time we saw the Kabaziguruka's case, whereby the civilians have been tried in the court martial, that now it is the country's policy that civilians should be tried in civilians courts, not being tried in martial courts as if they are soldiers. Thank you so much.
We shall come back to that. We do appreciate you for calling out the justice system outside there to be very impartial, to be very clear about seeing that it serves Ugandans, especially the young people, with justice as it is mandated to be. Ashraf, 3rd May of every year is the World Press Freedom Day. The last time I heard of the leadership of the Uganda Journalists Association was at the Human Rights Commission, filing cases of abuse of their members. Around 14 of them were grossly abused in Kawempe. Some were brutally injured, some lost ears, some eyes. One of the best photographers around this country was limping for some good time. The country missed his photographs for some good time. All is as a result of our state of political and civil rights. As we we move closer with the roadmap of the Electoral Commission. What are your views?
Thank you so much once again, Mr. Ivan. As you've said that on 3rd May this year, there is what we call the World Press Freedom Day. And on that particular day, that's when, of course, the journalists, all people who are under the press come out to celebrate their day. So to start from that example of the recently concluded by-election of Kawempe North, we all know that on the polling day, what happened to various journalists? They were brutally beaten up, their cameras were destroyed. Some of them, as you've given an example of a journalist who's known as Francis Isano, he just resumed his work last week. But the election was conducted on the 13th of March 2025. Today is 29th of April. That means that nearly 1.5 months he has been off duty just because of the harm and injuries he got during the elections. People like Abubakar Lubowa, who's also a photojournalist, was also harassed in that course. So as we are going to 2026, remember that was just a by-election. So many people out there are just imagining this is just a by-election of just one constituency. Then how about if you are going to the general election of 2026, which has all the parts of the country? How is it going to be looking like? So this sends a very intimidating message to all the youth and even other stakeholders out there on what's going to happen in 2026. So another thing I would like to talk about is on the issue of the register. We all know that on the 17th of this month, the Electoral Commission came out officially to display the National Voters Register, and this is going to run as far up to the 15th of next month. But then we also have some bit of contradiction. An example of, I'm going to still use that example of Kawempe North, whereby a political party had 200,000 potential voters, like according to their register. However, what happened is, when people turned out, 14% of it's only 14% of the people of Kawempe North they are the only people who turned out to vote, simply because of we all know what happened, intimidation, what. So my point I'm trying to make is, as I was saying, a political party portrayed 200,000 potential voters. However, the outcome of the election, regardless of the low turnout,
was decided by 14%.
14%. But that 14% was distributed to all political parties. But that particular political party didn't even make 10,000 votes. So
out of the 200K.
Out of the 200K, which they claim is for their voters register. So we are yet to see what's coming out in 2026. Another thing is the Electoral Commission in this financial year, they requested for a budget of 838 billion Ugandan shillings to be used in the upcoming election. Additionally, other agencies, for example, the army came up with a special budget which they require to be used in the next election. But it's very important to know that under the laws of Uganda, it is only the Uganda police that is required to handle the elections. Then where need be, that's when other security forces will come in. But then what we are seeing right now is it's the army which is even more given resources other than the agency which is mandated by law to be the first priority as far as that election is concerned. My colleague here has talked about the case of Honorable Michael Kavazi versus Attorney General. It was a case which was decided on the 31st of January this year, which said that the trial of civilians in general court-martial is unconstitutional, simply meaning that any person who is not part of the serving, that's very important, serving, that means that even if I was once a UPDF officer, but I later on retired, I'm not supposed to be tried in a court-martial. However, after the Supreme Court, which is the highest court of the land, in this country, in every society which has what we call democracy, the Supreme Court is the most respected institution in that particular country. So in the Ugandan laws, when the Supreme Court came up with that decision, saying that the trial of civilians in a court-martial is unconstitutional, we all know what happened. it went ahead to even say that whoever is in incarceration, whoever is being held in the Uganda prisons, as per the directive of the court martial, and he or she is a civilian, such proceedings must cease, and those people was supposed to be either transferred to the civilian courts or they were supposed to be released incommunicable. So what happened, we all know what happened, is after that Supreme Court decision happened, we all know none of those civilians who were tried in the General Court Martial were left in the were released in the prison. Even this issue of Bestie being taken to Nakawa Chief Magistrate's Court was out of the public pressure. We all know what happened. People had to first come and say we are going to strike. And of course, once the message of people wanting strike went so viral, that's when the government decided to say, no, you know what? Let's first take him to Nakawa Chief Magistrate Court. So when he was taken there, we had to apply for bail. Someone talked about the issue of how come he was not given for the first time. My colleague here will tell me, will be a bear witness, that for the first time in the history of Ugandan courts, where someone has to fulfill all the grounds of being granted bail, then the court says, yes, you have fulfilled all the required grounds. But however, you know what however, meaning that you have subscribed to all the requirements we want, but however, we shall not grant you because we feel or we think you're going to discourage the investigations. So my last point on the issue of that very case, we all know that once Article 92 of the 1995 Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, it provides that once the Supreme Court nullifies a certain law, it is not supposed to be relitigated again. What I mean is it's not supposed to be brought back to Parliament for amend or to contradict what the Supreme Court provided for. We all know that this decision came when we have what we call the EPDF Amendment Bill of 2024, which was already in Parliament, which was seeking to, for example, because we all know SFC is not a legally recognized unit of the EPDF. So that one of the provisions of that bill was to make sure they recognize the SFC legally as well as the reserve force. Because as of now, we only know land forces and the air forces. So what we know after that case, the NRM Parliamentary Caucus sat and they had to withdraw that bill of UPDF Amendment Bill of 2024. And they are going to reintroduce it. And this time, when they are going to introduce it, they have made sure that one of the proposed amendments they are going to make sure that they are going to bring back the issue of retrying civilians in the General Court Martial, which is against Article 92, whereby I said that Article 92 says if at all the Supreme Court nullifies a law, it's not supposed to be brought back for legislation. So the government is going against what we call the the Constitution. And all know that the Constitution is the overall law of the land. So what we are going to see is going to put a lot of loopholes in the government and all the institutions of Uganda. So another thing they are planning is, of course, we all know that the court martial previously, it was being headed by someone, like it was headed by a chairman, of which that chairman is not one of the requirements for you to be appointed to be the leader of that court. You must not be well versed with the law. You must simply be a brigadier general. So if at all you're a brigadier general and you're going to handle issues of murder, but you don't even know, you've never even studied anything about the law, trust me, which kind of justice is going to be administered? That's why in their proposal, they are planning to ensure that the person who's going to be the chairman of the General Court Martial should have the qualifications of the judge of the High Court. However, still that's not in line with what we talked of Article 92. So with those few remarks, I really feel we are yet to see what 2026 is as me as Ashraf. Thank you so much, Mr. Masawi.
Isaac, you have really seen our friends from the law fraternity on the show shed light that militarization in Uganda's politics is one of the issues that grossly contributes to abuse of political and civil rights. My question first would be to you, in line with the Democratic Party where you subscribe. First, what space because I know parties at this moment, most would be engaging in activities of mobilization, delegates conferences, flag bearers, but literally most of these parties today can't mobilize outside their headquarters. The police, Uganda police, hides under the Public Order Management Act to stop some of these parties under contradictions of the law. The parties themselves are now at a weaponry because of the gross GISOs, RDCs, where they need to get approval to host some of these mobilization activities. These are people who directly subscribe to the office of the president and are appointed because of loyalty. I would want to pick from you, how does it look like currently going into 2026, both at the Uganda Young Democrats level and also at the mother party, the old one?
Okay, so thank you very much for that question. I think my views would be, starting from Kawempe, the low turn-up. I think I would say the population is completely disappointed. The population is completely, I think the population has lost all the hope in the electoral processes of this country. Because surely, having registered thousands and thousands of voters, at the end of the day, you find out that only 14% turn up to vote. Which gesture does it give back to the Electoral Commission? People have lost interest. People have lost hope in whatever happens in the electoral processes. I think the other thing would be, I would advise people that despite that the conditions and the environment that we're working in being unfavorable, we shouldn't give up. Because there's one philosopher who said, even in the face of impossible odds, people who love their country can change it. All the odds are against us, but giving up is not a solution. We should actually continue working and getting involved in these processes to see that we get a better country. Because if I wake up and give up on something that I've been trying for years, so what is the end result? Is giving up a solution? No. So actually, I would call upon other people who had abandoned everything, that because there's no hope, there's no what. I mean, let's get back to the drawing board. Let's be involved in these policies, in these processes, so that we can get a better country. I'm assuring you, according to my own understanding, even this low turn-up, it's a gain to the government, because for them, the more you shun away, is the more you give them space to do whatever they want. But if you get involved, you can actually put them on pressure to do better. So coming back to, for us as the Ugandan Democrats,
The space, generally.
the space in the Ugandan Democrats, for us, it is a free space. Whoever wants to be involved, you're always welcome. We have been doing party registrations from village to parishes to sub-counties.
Are you enjoying the same rights as NRM is enjoying in their roadmap? Because you can move in a village and find you have not seen any other party doing what NRM sits at the city center, where the borders park is where they put their registers.
Yeah, I would say, basically, I was doing registration in Manafa. I would say I've not been having any blockage or any hindrance in doing
So you're mobilizing.
in doing my activities as an individual. But you know, they always say that injustice somewhere is not justice anywhere. So even though I'm enjoying the rights, if someone else is not being given the opportunity to do the activities freely, I also get touched as a person.
Your memorandum of understanding as deep, does it protect you in mobilization or it doesn't protect you? Before I bring Honorable Trust there to have a comment.
Our memorandum of understanding with NRM, it was clear. It was built on 4 points.
We want to know
And
for purposes of
and,
our
and
viewers.
on those 4 points, there's no way you can see that we should have the freedom of doing our activities. It was one basically on.
Because the party president is the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs.
Yes. So I'm trying to tell you that our memorandum of understanding never talked about having the freedom to do what we want to do, because freedom is for everybody according to the law. For us, our agreement was basically on 4 points. 1 is national reconciliation. 2, having peaceful transition of power. 4 is having electoral reforms. And the fourth one,
Before we clear I
want to
know how much you've achieved.
No, I want to tell you that our memorandum of understanding, it was not built for our own favor.
Yes.
For if you are talking about
Ugandans,
electoral reforms,
it is a national cause.
It is a national cause.
Yes.
Electoral reforms, if we have good, because for us, we are advocating for maybe like the judges where you lie from. We should remove the powers from the president. If the president has the powers to elect the chairperson of electoral commission, what sure do you expect from that person? Because Precious here talked about loyalty. You have to be loyal to your boss. So if it's the president who is electing the chairperson of electoral commission, of course he has to offer back the loyalty. So we don't expect anything good from that. So that's what DP advocates for. We should really have, like in Kenya, the president has no powers in electing the electoral commission chairman. That's what DP advocates for in Uganda. So is that for DP alone, or it is for all of us? It's for all of us. National reconciliation. You can look at, if you go through the population, you can see that the population is bitter. All parties are bitter. Last time Kashumba was made, for me, I don't take Kashumba serious. But last time he made a statement which really touched me. He said, if we should all pray that president doesn't wake up one day and may die on a plane. He said, if at all president goes outside and he dies on a plane, do you know someone who is in Tinda cannot even reach the town? Someone who is in Bana cannot even reach Kireka. And I analyzed his statement. I said, this guy is right. Everybody's bitter. If the president dies right now, we can cut ourselves and we all die. So for us, what we advocate for is to have a peaceful transition of power. Yes, the president has served what he has served. We should have a peaceful transition of power from the president to another person, not basically us, maybe from NRM, maybe to FDC, not basically DP. Isn't that a national cause?
Honorable Trustee, you have a comment, but he still has his time. You can have a comment as
so for us, I'm trying to tell that the national, our party memorandum of understanding with NRM, it was not for us. It was for the whole country. According to the point,
you could have a comment. I'm coming back to Isaac.
Isaac should maybe share with us the cake that he has, because he speaks with a lot of satisfaction.
No, I don't.
My interest today was I wanted to pick an evaluation of how far those the MOU has.
That's what I also wanted to ask.
Because you see, either there's a detachment from reality, or the people in society, the people who hold the power at the moment, probably do not see the reason why they should interfere in the processes of the DP. You see, when someone is inconsequential, there is no need to pay attention so much to him. So it is understandable. Actually, I agree with Isaac when he says that he's doing his work successfully. It is actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a hindrance. Because you are sleeping in the bed with someone, and this is a person that you've agreed with, you are sharing cake with. When you say that the Electoral Commission chairperson is elected by the president, world over, even judges are nominated by presidents. In America, there are nominations.
The president nominates and the committee approves.
Exactly.
Parliament has a role to approve.
As well here, as you know, even ministers go for vetting in the parliament here. And so the process
they just need to also add Judicial Service Commission to the approval.
Yes. So the whole point I'm trying to make is that the issue is not on who appoints, but the question that we need to pose to ourselves is the implementation. and the goodwill. What we call having the person being appointed should know that they are being appointed in a position of influence, not to please any other person, to stand true to duty. When someone understands their duty, it's no longer a question of pleasing a boss, wanting to please someone or the appointing authority. Otherwise, it would mean that it is useless for us to have and make such appointments and to have such processes going forward. And so I agree with I really feel sorry when my brother Isaac thinks that whoever appoints you, you know, we have a proverb in where I come from that the one who is drumming, that's what gives you the tune on how you need to dance. But you can also choose to change the dancing style, and you can also influence him. Ideally, I'm trying to say that it's not just about who has appointed you, but when you're appointed in office and you're given power and an opportunity to serve the people, serve with integrity, serve under the law, and let us see you serving the interests of the majority, but not only a few people. But next time as you come, Isaac, please share with us that cake, because it seems to be very big. The mugat is big.
Isaac, I need to give Isaac more time.
Yes.
I'm going to move around because Isaac is in the Democratic Party is doing their internal elections of the party.
Yes.
I want Isaac to share with us a few highlights and how he's positioning himself in the particular election. The Youth Roundtable is here to promote all youth who subscribe to this table. So our viewers, we are still with you. Council lawyer of the show, Precious, you see the Honorable Trust Mugisha Nduwayo, as we take him, MTN, points out a very key issue, the issue of double standards in application of the law. As we see currently that a certain group of individuals called Patriotic League, or referred as Pirao in Uganda, can march freely, but a group just gathering in Makerere, Kavule, or somewhere at Katonga or Najana Kumbi can't be allowed to possess the same right. We don't want to live here and we hear Chairman Mao was stopped from his procession after nomination and was whisked, yet his bodyguard Isaac was with me at the show. Yes?
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful question. Yes, we have seen that happening for over the years. You have called it Pirao. I think it is, some people call it PLU, the Patriotic League of Uganda.
We call it Pirao, yeah.
Okay, maybe it should be gazetted so that...
No, in Uganda word, you don't change the very words the very way they are in English.
Yes, it sounds so interesting because at least I think everyone can really always remember.
League of
Yes,
Uganda.
yes. Yeah, we have issues that we need to look at as Ugandans, as people who have the love for our country. It is not about talking about having so many political parties, because we have also seen that every year that we have political parties that are being registered.
David Magezi is on board. He's coming to our show, I think, next week.
Yes, we see that when you check, like in Uganda Gazette and all other platforms, they tell you this political platform is no longer existing, meaning that these people, they had a certain agenda, and maybe probably they have failed to make it. At times, it is not maybe they've been hindered by the police, as it is always in the news. Of course, like we have seen from the previous elections, the by-election is like also in Kisoro. You saw how people who are not in a ruling party were being handled. And I don't think this is a direction or a direction that someone should take while you're performing your duties. These people, once they are getting into those positions, most of the time they take the oath. The oath to serve with due diligence, to serve independently without influence. But at times we think that when we do what is wrong, we are praising of this person, maybe who is our supervisor or who appointed us in this position. And that's why you have seen some people being fired from big positions like the Mabati the Mabati case, you saw the woman who was involved. The woman has been tried, has been remanded. Yeah, we can see there's something being done. We can see the cases because some people died from the Chitezi. You can see she was fired from her position, and I don't think she's really earning. I'm sure the reason why the public was crying because she's no longer going to share the cake that she has been enjoying from her position. And actually, that would be the justice that everyone would dream of. Talking about the issue of political parties and the rights being enjoyed by one political party over the other, I think at times we have seen cases whereby maybe these people who are conducting like the assembly, you cannot come out. Yes, you have a right to conduct assembly, you communicate, you talk, but we have limitations whereby you are conducting assembly of over 1,000 people. Really, I think with matters of security, you know, most people don't want to discuss matters of security because they may charge you with issues of treason that maybe you are planning to overthrow the government. Though you have that right, you have a right to overthrow the government, but the problem is when you fail. That's where the problems always comes in. And really, political parties, every political party is having a freedom because now we don't advocate for a single party system. We have now multi-party. People are free to start very many new political parties because you saw recently we have, is it called the PPF? The one, yes. We can see they have also been trying to see, now people are asking, now most of these people are from FDC. So is FDC still existing? Now we can see today that Mao is really going to have his also assembly as also the minister who is serving, and we are also asking ourselves their conflict of interest because we can see that really a public officer is expected to operate independently, yes, from the individual issues again concerning the public, especially when we come talk about the political spaces. And I'm glad that people who are like in Manafa, they can really campaign peacefully. But if it is in towns like Kampala, Mbalala, I'm sure even when you are conducting, just wearing the uniform, having that political party, whether DP or NUP or any other political party, really at times you are not feeling the safety, which is like the other person putting on the yellow of the ruling system.
Thank you very much, Precious. Ninsiima has been our lawyer and our guest today. In our last 10 minutes of the show as we close, Ashraf, in your parting shots, what advice would you give government on handling the next election? Maybe your parting shots of the day.
Okay, thank you so much once again. The kind of advice I will give the government is one is at least on the issue of involving the army into the election. I really see that as something, it will be disadvantageous in that it will intimidate the voters. You know, nowadays, an example, on Monday this week, National Unity Platform at their headquarters were supposed to launch what we call the protest vote, you get. But then the previous day, that was on Sunday, police came up with a statement saying that tomorrow, National Unity Platform shouldn't waste their time going to their headquarters in the disguise of launching what we call the protest vote. So they deployed. Also, what happened on Monday. So after deployment, one of the way three trucks were passing, and those trucks were having JAT officers. Trust me, we saw news journalists, they themselves trying to say that, okay, I'll not even say they run, like they moved away. So you can see what we are all going to see for 2026. So one of the advice is at least let them not involve the army in affairs of the elections. Let it be strict on the police. I really feel the police can handle this if at all, because if the army are the ones who come in and they bring more of the violence. You get it? So I, as Ashraf, I really feel let the government seek on the issue of police get involved in let the police be involved in the elections. Another advice would be at least let them give some. Yes, we all know that the government, most of the governments in most countries, they really fight as much as they can to make sure they keep themselves in power. So on the issue of keeping themselves in power, it's not bad to keep yourselves in power, but let them give some breathing space to the opposition. You get, because we all know
Isaac,
that's
is it
Thank you
about
very much.
regime change, transitions as in the MOU, or it is about democracy? That is a question. As we close, your parting remarks, what statements do you have on the state of political and civil rights? We here as the Youth Roundtable wish the Democratic Party and you in particular as a candidate success in the coming internal elections at the DP. But what are your closing shots?
I think my closing remarks would be, we all understand that the political atmosphere is unfavorable to almost everybody. But I would still insist that us shunning away from these processes doesn't help.
You better negotiate.
We need to be involved, take part in these processes so that we can have an opportunity of maybe getting better leaders. Back to DP where I subscribe to, I'm actually aspiring for General Secretary of Uganda Young Democrats. And my candidature is standing basically on inclusive and servant leadership, where we have to have workshops and trainings offered to everybody, and also trying to decentralize the activities of UYD to regions and districts. And also, trying to recruit more people into the party. And this can be done better by the young people because we are energetic. We have all the time on us to move around the country and do that activity. So I'm asking my delegates, come 30th May, come and vote for me for General Secretary of Uganda Young Democrats. Thank you very much for having us here.
We wish you the best and the victory in your internal primaries. This remains the Youth Roundtable. Precious Ninsiima, our counsel of the day. As we close, what legal advice would you give to your client, government of Uganda, in regards to the state of civil and political rights?
Thank you so much. I can see basically you have pointed out to the government, and basically when you talk about the government, you always ask yourself, what is that government? Is it a building? But you'll find most of the times it is us.
Yes, the individual.
Yes, the individual. So we as the government, because the government does not exist in the space.
Those who have the power.
Okay. Some people define government, of course, for those with power. Yeah, because we know that it is always the commander giving really a command of what is supposed to be done. Looking at the government in the aspect of those with power, and we have been having the issue of powerlessness, whereby there is power, but the exercise of the power authority is not like in a recommendable circumstance. How are you exercising your power, and what are the results from your position as the person having the power? I think that's where the issue is, and to whoever is having a position, really, we need to focus ourselves on results for a better society, results to bring peace, and the results to bring the development that we yearn for, because we know that as we hold the power, it will not be forever, because we know that there is a time whereby you would want to stand up and you not be able to stand up. But at a time where you can do something, please, when you do, make sure that what you do is in line with your duties, and it is in line with what the society expects from you, and in line with the guidelines of the position that you hold. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ninsiima Precious. It has been a pleasure having you on the Youth Roundtable today. Our concluding guest today is the Honorable Mugisha Trust Nduwayo. First, you will make your advice as a leader towards the fellow leaders leading the country on how we can deal with the current confusion in the status of political and civil rights. but also you'll conclude with your alumni like me and Isaac here that come Wednesday 30th, where should we look on the ballot paper for convocational chairperson? The microphone is yours.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I subscribe to the school of thought that every member of society must be willing, without coercion, to exercise their civic duties, to understand that it is through exercising their rights as members of society that their voice can be heard. It is actually wrong, and it is betrayal to society and to the country that we belong to when we shun and we shy away from participating in the electoral processes and the political spaces of this nation. Otherwise, we shall just remain lamenting, and those that we think do not support us, or those that we think are holding offices in ways that are not right, will always take it over. And so once we choose to resign, and once we choose to sit back and just let things flow, yes, probably we can have the convenience of the moment, but the impacts are so lasting that we might wake up one day and regret why we did not choose to participate. And so it is very important for us to participate in this whole thing. And once again, I would like to call upon my fellow alumni and staff members of Kyambogo University convocation, and to remind them that my name is Trust Mugisha Nduwayo. Tomorrow, we shall be going to the polls. And as a former student of this institution, Kyambogo University, as an alumni of Kyambogo University, I am seeking for the support of the alumni and the support of all staff members to vote me as their chairperson for Kyambogo University convocation. Our election is going to be held tomorrow at Kyambogo University, and it is going to be held at CTF grounds. My humble request is that all of us rally behind the cause of transforming our institution. We belong to Kyambogo University. It's the only university that we have. We could surely get affiliated to other institutions. But for us, who held and got our early university education from Kyambogo University, it will always remain our primary alma mater. And so we cannot forget about Kyambogo University. We need to come and exercise our duties in ensuring that we have change, in ensuring that we have another voice added as we seek to advance the infrastructure of our institution that has been so lacking for the last 20-something years. As we also seek to see that our welfare in this institution, the welfare of the students, the welfare of the alumni, and the welfare of the staff, especially the staff. I humbly request the staff to wake up tomorrow early in the morning to come and exercise their duties. Come as a student, as an alumni, come with the copy of your transcript, certified copy of your transcript, and a national ID. But for the staff members, please come with what proves to you that you are a staff member, either a staff ID or a national ID, as well as your appointment letter.
Wow, thank you very much. The viewers, majority are Kyambogo University students like me and you, who are one of the great engineering faculty of the last decade.
Yes.
We do appreciate you, our viewers, for keeping in touch with us. We look forward to seeing you again next week, same time, same place. Our great appreciation and gratitude to Center for Constitutional Governance, Civic Space TV, and our production team. Thank you very much. Have a blessed week.